everybody. Welcome to the Smoke Podcast.
Good evening, everybody.
And of course, my co host Michael. And we have a very, very special guest tonight, Bishop Joshua Sparks. And all right, I got to do this. I got to say this. This is a special, special guest, and I've been wanting him on the show for a while. This is not exactly the show that I picked, but this works, and we're still going to do the other show too.
Right.
But anyway, our next guest is a prominent spiritual leader, author, and teacher whose ministry has touched countless lives, known for his profound insight, deep faith, dedication to community empowerment. He brings a unique perspective to the conversation today. Please welcome to the show Bishop Joshua Sparks.
Thank you, Stan. Wonderful introduction. Thank you, Michael, for having me here as your guest in your all's house tonight.
Glad to have you.
Brother, I'm not as good as you at this stuff.
You was wonderful. You sounded great.
Give it a shot.
That was perfect. You know what? Don't get any better than that, Stan. That was great.
He was talking to you up this time.
Good. Yeah, it's made me. My head's already big enough, Stan. You know. I'm going to have to go from a 10-gallon cowboy hat to a 20-gallon now.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's right. You deserve that. So tonight, I wanted to put this show together so we could talk about UFO stuff. And I know, Bishop Joshua, you see UFOs all the time in Kentucky. You tell us about that whenever you're on the other show.
Yeah, I do.
And me, I've seen a few things here in Alabama, but nothing like whenever I was in North Carolina. And and I think Michael has even experienced some things too. So just things we couldn't understand. So I wanted to get somebody that knows things on the show with us so we could talk about it, discuss things. Of course, the Bible says we'll see sights and wonders. And when you can't explain that, what you see zipping around in the sky up there, I guess that is a wonder. It certainly makes you wonder. And here, not too long ago, right here at the house, we had experienced some things. In fact, Debbie, she called us and asked if we were seeing the same thing. And then I called my grandson, which is a couple towns over. He was seeing the same thing. And then Letriana Terry Brown in South Carolina was actually seeing the same thing that we were. And so we never figured out what it was. Of course, everybody was saying, oh, it was helicopters and it was this, because it was right around the time that the auroras was supposed to be visible in the south. So now my first question, I guess, what I'm leading up to, did you experience any of those things? Like, did you see things in the sky when the auroras were prominent?
Well, I didn't see the auroras. I tried to turn my camera on my phone. I didn't see that, but around that same time, I think, is when I captured the picture of the triangular disc. Well, it's not a disc if it's a triangle. A symmetrical shape of a disc or of a triangle with the three lights at each point of the triangle. And of course, what I call the wheel in the middle of the wheel is probably the one that I see the most. When you zoom in on the videos that I've taken, you can actually see the wheels spinning within each other.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I've seen stuff in the sky during that time. Of course, unexplainable. Whether it be a UFO, UAP, whether it be something that our government's engineered. Because I've seen some of these videos where some of these crafts have been shot down, so that leads me to believe that those were man-made or bioengineered, or what's the word I'm looking for, when they go in and they learn something but they back it up and then they invent it Um, there's a big word, and I'm usually not a loss for words. Um, it's reverse engineering. There we go.
Reverse
They
There
engineering.
you
go in
go.
and try to figure out what's going on in these systems, on these spacecraft or these UFOs or UAPs. Um, now, let me ask you a question, Stan. When you all seen these craft, was it at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were all seeing it at the same time. Hey Ben, um, it was really it was weird. It's like they would come out of the west and they would at a high rate of speed and they would just immediately stop and just like they were just sitting there. And then one would shoot straight up and this one would go off in a different direction. And I thought this was just there's no way. I mean, I'm acquainted with a few helicopters and types of vehicle, aircraft and stuff with the military. I don't know of a military plane or anything like that that could move that way.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think that I've ever heard of anything either that can move that way. That can just put on the brakes like that and freeze in the middle of the air and then take
Yeah.
off again. I don't think that I've ever seen or heard of any type of plane. And that's what I wanted to be when I was younger. I wanted to be an airplane pilot. I wanted to be a fighter jet pilot. And they've got some really cool jets out now, but I've never seen any of them be able to do that. It doesn't matter
Mm,
uh,
no,
what the technology is. I've never seen it.
you, you know, uh, if they did have technology like that and they're traveling at that speed, if there was a human being on the inside of that craft or whatever that wasn't protected somehow, they couldn't stand it. Go
mm,
from 5, 6 Gs or whatever to instantaneous stop.
right. That's a lot of G force.
Yeah, I mean that's just incredible.
Not without your soul and your spirit and your skeleton coming out of your body at the same time.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean you'd have to run and catch back up with it, but it's it, and they never made a sound.
Wow.
Never made a sound. And then probably an hour later, we started seeing some helicopters. Now we're right here at the Air Force Base, um, right down the road basically, and then of course we have Fort Rucker, which houses all the Apache helicopters and things like that, and we see them all the time. We're like in a flight
Yeah.
pattern here.
You can
And,
tell the difference.
oh yeah, and even in stealth mode, you can still hear that type of thing, especially if you know what to listen for. But these made no sound, no whistling sound, no nothing, and it was just amazing. Um,
Even with the helicopters, you can feel the vibrations from the
yeah,
helicopters coming towards you.
From a long ways off,
Yeah.
you
yeah.
can feel them.
That pressure, they
Hmm.
they push a pressure that you can feel within your body, within your head. Um, to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, whenever they were landing out there or doing maneuvers and stuff like that, um, it almost give you a headache. They were going, all that pressure and stuff. So I definitely knew that wasn't them, and but that kind of reminded me. It carried me back to my child. Well, not necessarily my young adulthood, if you would. Um, I was working for my grandfather. I was on a shrimp boat. We were, I don't know, 200 miles out. We were in international water. I mean, we were way out there. And I was out in it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Back then, I smoked cigarettes, and I was laying up on they had a bow seat on the boat, and I was just kind of laying up there on that, kicked back. And when you get away from all the lights and the hoopla of the city, you see billions upon billions of stars. And that's where I think you see in all the galaxies and things like that. But um, I was laying there and I just started seeing these things zip across the sky, and they would, I mean, they were like super fast, and it looked like at first I thought maybe it was some sort of something that had like an animal that had lights or something. They were just playing because that's what it looked like, and then they started coming down closer, and you could tell that it was some sort of craft or something. And my uncle that was on the boat, he was sitting in the captain's chair, and he tapped on the window, and I just did this, come here, come here, and there was hundreds of them, and they were all over the sky, and my uncle, his name's Ronnie, and he said, "What in the world is that?" And he's old guy, and I'm like, "I don't know what that is, but that's the strangest thing I think I've ever seen in my life." And it made me wonder, but it also made me kind of feel funny, you know, like maybe I don't know everything that's going on, in this world, and of course I don't. But um, I think I'd really like to experience that again. So I did a little reading, and there were those type of crafts seen all over the world. This was in the 80s, early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. I can't remember exact year, but those things were seen all over the world, and so um, it was a, it was something that I'll never forget. You know,
Absolutely.
so but I just do you think that maybe they were just they were just playing, or were they? I couldn't even really tell if they were within our atmosphere. They might have been in space or something, and we were seeing them. But
Well, I think they were more observing. I think they do a lot of that. Um, I think that with any type of newfound, um, whether it be worlds or newfound lands, when we go into these jungles where there are groups of people that have never had human contact at all in the history of mankind being on the earth, and we fly over top of them, and they're trying to throw spears at helicopters and
yeah,
jets and stuff and rocks. I mean, we encounter them. It's very strange to us, and we're not there to hurt them. We're there to observe, and they encounter us, and they're ready to attack and fight and try to kill us because they feel threatened by our presence. So I think that that's why we feel the way we do, and really they're there to observe. I mean, if they were malevolent, don't you think that someone can take a vehicle running 8 to 10,000 miles an hour and stop it in the middle of the air and float and then take off as quickly as they stopped? Could just annihilate us from space and us not even be able to fire a shot with that type of technology. And they've reversed engineered these crafts that they found crashed, at Roswell. They're in Roswell, New Mexico in the 1940s. Um, or the other crafts that they've had that have crashed that they've taken possession of. So we've been told. Well, when they've reversed engineered these, there's no steering wheels, there's no gear shifts, there's nothing but pads where these beings lay their hands, and somehow telepathically they drive these vehicles. If they have that kind of technology, don't you think for an instance that they could consume us like that and just destroy our world, upset our way of life very easily? So I
True.
think they're more observing. Um, and I think that there's a spiritual side to that as well. Um, because the Bible's full of mysteries and wonders. And, Jesus said there'd be signs in the heavens above and in the earth beneath: blood, fire, vapors of smoke. Uh, excuse me, the moon would be turned to darkness and the sun to blood. I mean, the sun would be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. So, you know, clouds blot out the sun. Um, Why can't a great big craft blot out the sun? You know, I've heard people talk about seeing things that were 50 miles in diameter in the sky. 50 miles, a craft, one single craft, 50 miles
Wow.
wide. Can you imagine? I mean, how could you land that at an airport? You could. There's no airport big enough in the world
No.
that you could land that. And I don't even know if there's a field. I mean, I know there's fields that are big enough, but where? The desert? I mean, where could you land something that big? Um, so I've seen videos, and I don't know if it's AI or what. I'm an old country boy, and I'm not real hip on this AI stuff. My kids are. I love the technology. I use it as best as I can, but when it comes to coding and stuff like that, doing all this AI, as we said out here in the country, I'm as dumb as a stump when it comes to that stuff. So I leave that to the kids. But I've seen videos of these spacecrafts flying over these nuclear missile sites.
Yeah.
And I've seen videos of these crafts flying around missiles that have been detonated and shot and causing them just to fall out of the sky. There's so many different uh, ideas about who they are and why they're here. Um, and you know what? I don't know, Stan, Michael, I don't know if we'll ever really know. I mean, we can sit here and guess. I've got hundreds of pages of stuff that I've written about what I think it is. There's a book that I was working on and have been working on for some time, Aliens, Angels, and the Coming Deception. And I explore a lot of things in that, a lot of things that everybody's talking about, because it's so easy for us to be tricked, to be manipulated, to be deceived, because we're so gullible as people. What was it Reagan said in the 80s? Trust but verify.
Yeah.
We have to verify the information we've been given instead of just following it hook, line, and sinker, just like this big, this alien disclosure.
Right.
I've heard about that for weeks.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when governments start talking about UFOs, when intelligence agencies start briefing pastors, and when the world suddenly becomes comfortable with the idea of non-human intelligences, and I say this with all my heart, you better believe something spiritual stirring. There's something going on. And I don't believe what we're seeing is random. I believe that what we're seeing, brothers, is coordinated, it's progressive. You look back at the Egyptian hieroglyphics as they painted those murals on the walls. A lot of times there's spacecrafts painted on these walls. I mean, thousands of years ago, and the Egyptian people are one of the oldest on the earth. And not just from way back when, but even down through the Middle Ages, when people even painted pictures depicting Christ, they painted UFOs in the pictures. So obviously, these are things that people have seen for ever since man's been on the earth, ever since man could communicate and write, and created a language and was able to draw pictures and talk about the things that they see. Maybe they didn't describe them like we do, because we have technology today that we can compare it to. Maybe they couldn't describe it the way we can today. Maybe that's why they called them chariots of fire, or wheels in the middle of the wheel. That was the only way they could describe it, because they didn't have anything to relate to. They didn't have Star Trek. They didn't have, all these science fiction movies. And I think, and just fancy me here for a minute, if you will, brothers. I think that all these science fiction movies that they've made, that they've come out with, have been kind of like preparation to prepare us for things that we're going to see in the near future.
All right.
Here's the thing too. For decades, the government denied everything, right? Oh, there's no such thing. We don't know anything about that. Now they're releasing videos, thousands of videos, thousands of documents and testimonies that they would have never, ever thought about 20 years ago. So that shift alone tells me that we're being prepared for a narrative. Now, some of the key developments that we've seen over the last, 2 or 3 weeks in the news is, the Pentagon has formed what they call the UAP office. and it's a brand new office that they have utilized. And now we have the declassified videos, and now we have the whistleblowers claiming that they've recovered new crafts. And we've always, since Roswell, the 1940s, had reports of biological material. But the thing that really troubled me, and if you see me look like I'm shrinking, guys, I'm sorry, but for some reason, the hydraulic portion of my office chair broke, and it keeps causing me to sink. So I'm not sinking in the chair. The chair is actually sinking with me, so I apologize for that. But the thing that really caught my attention, is pastors being quietly briefed. Now, and I'm not saying that every sighting is supernatural, by no means. Because not everybody has eyes to see the supernatural. We know that to be true. If we could actually see right now how many good and bad spirits were around us, we'd probably go dig a hole somewhere and jump in it, because it would probably scare us half to death. I think some things are misidentified. I mean, it's easy to misidentify things. I think some of the things are classified technology that our government has. But here's the thing that really alarms me: the timing of this global disclosure. This disclosure, right as the world is morally collapsing and spiritually starving, and all these wars going on, and all these terrible things going on in all these different countries. A lot of governments collapsing, a lot of leaders falling, a lot of wars and rumors of wars, and not just that, but you have human suffering, you have human persecution, people being killed for their religious beliefs, people being killed just because groups of people just don't want them in their country, and it's scary, and it's a very serious time we're living in. And what I'm afraid of, guys, and this is just me speaking, this is me talking to my two brothers here tonight, because I feel like I'm in a place where I can talk and just share my heart, because you guys are wonderful, both of you. But it tells me that there may be something preparing, like maybe a counterfeit revelation. And I don't know. I don't want to hijack the program tonight and just talk.
Sure.
But there's a lot of things that we could talk about when we're talking in respect to this topic. And I think that we need to think with clear minds, and we need to be very concise. And we need to be very cautious when we're researching things. We need to make sure the sources that we're researching is credible, not incredible, but credible. Somebody told me one time, they said, "Well, I got my information off Wikipedia." I said, "Honey, anybody can change that. Anybody can go in and write what they want to." But let's talk about peer-reviewed journals and essays and magazine articles and scientific research. Let's talk to engineers. Let's listen to some of these people too that the science community and the government is calling crazy, like Bob Lazar, and some of the different people that are kind of in the same camp that he's in. These men claim to have worked around these crafts and worked around these beings that were recovered during these crashes. And do I know that they're telling the truth? And I don't know for sure. But why can't we listen to what they have to say now that we're doing all this disclosure? Now all these documents are being brought to light, and all these videos, and now everybody's talking about it. It's everything that everybody's talking about now. Why can't we bring those guys? Just like in the religious community, it's always kind of been taboo for the religious community to work alongside paranormal investigators. I'm the kind of guy that wants to bring both groups of people together, because we can work together. We can do the supernatural thing. You guys bring the scientific thing, and we all come together. Just think of all the good we could do for humanity, all the answers that we could find together. And when we work together, we're strong. There's power in numbers. And that's always been my goal, to bring people together. And I think that that's very important. But I'll shut up here in just a minute, I promise. But I want to just touch on these pastor briefings. It's got me kind of alarmed, because whether these briefings were official or unofficial, we don't know. It was secretive, and not they chose different leaders that they could bring in and reveal these things to. But why these certain people? What was the criteria that they had to meet in order to be brought into this secret meeting? And the fact remains that pastors are being told to prepare their congregation for a worldwide shock. And that alone is alarming to me. Now, here's some of the things that I think may have been discussed, and these are some of the things I've heard other people talk about that they heard were discussed. Now, this is just hearsay, and if you take hearsay and $1.50 down at McDonald's, you might get a cup of coffee if you get a senior discount. But some of the things I think may have been discussed is how's religious communities going to react? What's this going to do with people's faith? Are people going to stop believing in God? If a being shows up in a 50-mile radius spacecraft and comes down and says, Stan, Michael, the Bible you all have read your whole lives, we made it up. We created you all. We put you here. You can put your books away. We are your creators. What would that do to your faith? You don't have to answer that out loud, but think about that in your mind. What would that do to everything you've been taught? Think about every time you heard your grandma or your mama pray, or your daddy pray, and you seen God answer those prayers, or every time you prayed and you see God answer those prayers and come through for you in your life. What would that do to your faith? Another thing I think is they probably talked and maybe laid out the blueprint of how to prevent mass spiritual confusion. Because when you get a lot of people confused, have you ever seen a crowd where something crazy is going on in the crowd and everybody starts running in opposite directions and they're running into each other and headbutting each other and everybody's falling down, people getting stepped on and trampled on? It's crazy. So we don't want no mass confusion. And here's another thing. Maybe they were briefed on how to answer questions about creation in Christ. And how to stabilize congregations if images of these beings are released. And here's the thing that I want to just share, and then I'll shut up for a minute and let you. I'm gonna get me a drink of my coffee here before it gets cold. But if the government's preparing pastors, my brothers, then pastors must prepare the people. And preparation doesn't mean fear; it means discernment. Right. So we've got to be on our game. We have to, if we're really going to really dive into this topic, and you can't cover everything in one show.
Oh, no.
We'll have to go. We'd have to be on here for days just to even scratch the surface.
Oh, yeah.
But we've got to be careful when we are looking at this phenomenon going on around us, because we know it's real. We've seen it with our own eyes. Stan, you've seen the videos I've sent you, the pictures. And I actually took those pictures with my cell phone. My wife's come outside and we've looked up into the sky and I've zoomed in on the camera and you can see the crafts. They're real. They're there. It's not mass hysteria. Millions of people in imagining this, and you all wasn't seeing the same thing at the same time because you were all just imagining it together. Thousands of miles away from each other, hundreds of miles at least away from each other. Alabama to South Carolina is a pretty good haul. Alabama to Kentucky is a pretty good haul.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see things like that in the sky at the same time if it's you all just imagining something. Come on. We can't use that as an explanation anymore. Now that all this thing's out, now these things are being talked about, let's really find out what it is. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's get some answers.
Absolutely. I agree.
Have you seen any of these videos that they put out?
Yeah, I have. And what do you think about them, Michael? I think that it's garbage.
A lot of them to me look like balloons. A lot of them could be a type of drone to me. I wonder if like other countries are sending stuff over here to, like you say, spy on us. Not say the aliens above us spying on us. It could be other countries spying on us. We could be doing the same thing to them. They don't know. We don't know ourselves. But a lot of those videos to me look like balloons. It's just hard to see. They look like fast-moving balloons.
Right. Remember what it was a year ago or whatever, whenever they were seeing all these groups of drones and things like that, and there was certain organizations. One of them said, "Okay, you caught us, it was us, but they found out that it wasn't them. And so, what's to say that that's not part of the requisition of whole things, the whole their ability to start preparing us for things to come. All right. And the meetings with the pastors. All right. I think that's incredibly interesting, and I'm gonna try to look into that a little bit more. Um, Now, I've had so many people come at me and tell me, um, all these UFOs, if they are aliens, then they're demons. Just like, of course, the same people is telling me that the spirits that I talk to are demons. You know, everything is a demon,
Right.
and I just can't get that within me. I just can't, I just can't believe that. Um, I know there's demons out there, and in certain situations, I mean, you guys doing the exorcisms and things like that, helping the people, they're there, but not every single thing that we don't understand is a demon. And
No.
that's what I see. People are just throwing it on. I don't understand it. That scares me. So that's a demon. I'm gonna stay away from it. All right. So,
Right.
but in the end, people may stand back and say, "I wish I had researched that, or I wish I had pursued that, because maybe this outcome would have been different if I had." My personal outcome or your personal outcome, and you know, and there was a buddy of mine one time. We were talking about UFOs and stuff, and he says, "Who's to say Jesus ain't an alien? Or who's to say that God's not alien?" And that kind of struck me when you were talking about, well, what if the alien said we created y'all and so on and so forth? Um, you know, buddy of mine, he was. I mean, he's dead. He passed away now, but he was pretty serious about that, and you know he was a simple guy, and he looked at things a little bit more simple than we would, and but that was the way that, because he's seen all kinds of things. Um, Him hanging around with me, I seen some of the same things that he did. We witnessed all kinds of things, um, and that was the way he explained these things. So what if it is God? So maybe, and of course, I wanted to get you, brother, to explain Ezekiel to people. Because everybody says, well, in the Bible it says, and the first thing they start talking about UFOs, they start quoting Ezekiel. And so, if you could explain Ezekiel to us that might think that it's UFOs and stuff like that.
Can I add something to that real quick first?
Yeah.
I've had people tell me before, what if we're aliens that were sent to Earth, you know, like sent away from wherever they were at and sent to Earth to populate Earth? And, that's why we got the pyramids and the stuff with the hieroglyphics with aliens and stuff like that. That's that's something that's been told to me, that could be why we see all that stuff in the Bible, back in them days, I'd say, and even with the Egyptians and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and just to answer, what you was talking about there, Stan, um, God, we know, is a spirit, and He's not of this planet. Even though when Christ came, He used a human woman, the Virgin Mary, um, to be the Theotokos, the God bearer, and He used her DNA to produce a body. God is not a human, and He's not. He's incorporeal, meaning He don't have parts. He don't have parts like you and I. When He came as Christ, He had a physical body, but God is not of this planet. He created it, but He's not of this planet.
Right.
Now, here's something as we get, I want to set this up to go into Ezekiel because, we call them aliens. The Bible classifies the different things that we see in the sky, I believe, and it sets it in different categories. The Bible, as I said, gives us a vocabulary for non-human intelligences. There's angels, not only angels, but fallen angels, demons. And then there's the principalities. There's powers, the heavenly hosts. You know, and here's something I always try to tell people because it's usually a cop out when Christians say, "Ah, well, it's got to be this or it's got to be that," and be closed minded and don't want to be open to nothing. It's like saying, "Well, there's somebody out there in my neighborhood shooting a gun, but I got to go to the store and get some bread and milk, so I'm not even going to concern myself with what's going on out there." And you go out there and you get shot and you die. It's your fault.
Right.
You needed to be prepared. Now, if you're going to go out there, it's probably better to take Smith and Wesson with you. Walk out of the street and somebody's shooting a gun. So why not examine? Why not be prepared? Why not study? Excuse me. Why not make yourself ready? Why be lazy? Do your homework.
Yeah.
If the way we act when it comes to things that are really important to life, the way we don't research them, if we acted like at school, none of us would have made it through. You have to examine. So here's one thing I've always said. The unseen realm is not science fiction. It's reality. It's here. Someone asked me one time, do you believe in aliens? I say, I do believe in non-human intelligences. And then I believe that there could be other higher intelligences other than us. I mean, why not? I've told this story several times on the air about a local minister that he's since passed, but this was in the 1970s. And he told that he was abducted by aliens. They went into outer space. He asked them point blank, "Do you believe in Jesus Christ?" And they said, "Yeah, he's our God too, but we didn't sin like you all did." What if? What if there are other species, other people, maybe not species like Klingons or Romulans, which that would be pretty daggone cool. We wouldn't want the Cube. I don't think I would want those guys. Are pretty bad.
Yeah.
But the Vulcans and all these different, groups of people. I mean, why aren't we being showed videos and stuff like this? What's it preparing us for? I don't necessarily always believe they're from Zeta Reticuli, but I believe many are spiritual beings. I believe that they could be flesh and blood beings. I mean, obviously they are if their bodies have been taken in crashes and if the U.S. military shot and killed these species of people, whether they be what we call reptilian and the grays. You have the tall whites, the alien grays, which is the normal one we hear people talk about, the great big huge eyes and the big heads. I'll tell you a story real quick before we get into the Ezekiel thing. My wife's grandmother was at Gallipolis. She was in Gallipolis, right across from Point Pleasant, and they had a part of the Silver Bridge that fell during the time when they were seeing the Mothman. She only lived 62 miles south of where the Mothman was spotted. And she was in the bathroom. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. She had to go to the bathroom. My wife's grandmother was a full-blooded Cherokee Indian. She's a decent-sized woman. She could hold her own. God rest her soul. She's a precious soul. Wonderful, wonderful woman. We called her Running Deer. That was her Indian name. And she went into the bathroom to do her business and she heard somebody come in, which is not uncommon. I mean, you hear people come to the bathroom all the time. And she walked out, and there's this human-sized reptile standing in front of her.
Wow.
And she couldn't get around it. So she rebuked it in the name of Christ and pushed it out of the way. But she physically saw it. She physically touched it. She visibly was not hallucinating. She was wide awake. I'm sure by the time she hit the van, she was probably ready to go to the bathroom again. Maybe she did before she got in the car. Now, is there extraterrestrial biological life? Could God have created life elsewhere? He could. He can do what he wants. But here's the thing, and this is the one thing that I think that everybody's failing to talk about. Even if God did create life on other planets. They're still creatures and not creators.
Right.
That's the point that I want to make, and I feel strongly about that. They're creatures and not creators. Um, Interdimensional spiritual beings, we've talked about that a lot. Um, and I don't think we need to go down that rabbit hole tonight because that's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother show. We've already talked about misidentified or man-made phenomena. Um, Ezekiel chapter 1, um, the throne, or what I call the throne slash the chariot of God. Um, Ezekiel wasn't necessarily seeing what we call a flying saucer. He was seeing the glory of God. And the glory of God was enveloped in some type of a craft that he saw that was called the wheel in the middle of the wheel. Um, and the thing is, you know, the modern lens that we try to force onto what Ezekiel saw, because we can better describe it, I think if we don't understand the original Hebrew language, it takes away from the essence of what was written there by Ezekiel. But if we take away from that, and if we water it down though, and if we try to water it down and dilute it to fit our narrative, we get in trouble also. And what I mean by that is when Ezekiel saw, well, let me just grab my Bible and read out of the Bible real quick.
Go ahead.
Let's just go ahead and do that. And that way let me grab my reading glasses. I know they're here somewhere. Give me a second here. I have to have a separate pair of reading glasses because I can't hardly see anymore, guys.
I know the feeling.
Yep, right there with you.
Let's see here. Ezekiel chapter 1. Actually, I'm going to pull it up on my phone here so that I can see it a little bit clearer. But very fascinating passage of scripture. And it starts in about, I think, let's see, verse 4. And listen to what his word says. And I saw, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, and a great cloud, and a fire enfolding it. A fire enfolding it. Kind of like the fire, enfolding it, the fire around it, folding around it, enfolding it like something cradling a baby in a blanket, enfolding it. The fire was around it, maybe like something coming from outer space into our planet, and the fire burning from the atmosphere as it's coming down
Gotcha.
into the atmosphere where Ezekiel is. And brightness was about it. And out of the midst thereof, that is, out of the midst of the fire, as it were, the resemblance of amber. And in the midst thereof, the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. There was the likeness of a man in them. Every one had 4 faces, and every one 4 wings. Now, this is him describing the outside of this vehicle that he's seeing. Now, again, remember, this is 3,000, 4,000 years ago. And listen what it goes on to say. Their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their foot like the sole of a calf's foot, maybe some kind of a landing gear. And they sparkled like the appearance of glowing brass. And they had the hands of a man under their wings on their 4 sides, and they had faces and wings on 4 sides. And the wings of one were joined to the wings of another. They turned not when they went, but every one went straight forward. As for the likeness of their faces, there was the face of a man, the face of a lion, on the right side of all the 4, and the face of an ox, and the left side on all the 4, and the face of an eagle all over the 4. Now, I think that this, of course, it represents the different types of animals. It represents man. It represents the beast of the field, the lion. It represents the ox, which is the working animal, and then it represents the eagle, which is the flying, or the birds. In Native American cultures, birds represent the messengers. Those winged creatures represents messengers.
Mhm.
It says, and their faces and their wings were stretched upward. 2 wings of every one were joined, and 2 covered their bodies. And they went straight forward. Now listen to this. Here's what's really interesting, verse 12. Whether the impulse of the Spirit was to go, thither they went, and they turned not when they went. They were controlled by the impulse of the Spirit, something intellectually, not something with steering wheels and gear shifts or anything like that. And it says, and as for the appearance of the living creatures, their appearance was like that of burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. This was the vision running to and fro in the midst of the living creatures, a bright fire, and a lightning going forth from the fire. And it says, and the living creatures ran and returned like flashes of lightning in an instant. I mean, they could move like lightning.
Hmm.
Now I beheld the living creatures. There appeared upon the earth by the living creatures 1 wheel with 4 faces. Then it says, the appearance of the wheels and the work of them was like the appearance of the sea. And the 4 had all the one likeness in their appearance, and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of the wheel. And when they went by their 4 parts. But the part that I want to get to here said it had a size and a height and a dreadful appearance, and the whole body was full of eyes round about all the 4. There was windows, and there was eyes looking out of these windows. And it goes on to say that the spirit inside of this particular craft was what controlled where it went and how it went. And it said, I heard the noise of their wings like the noise of many waters, and as it were the voice of the Most High God when they walked. It was like the voice of a multitude, the noise of an army. And when they stood, their wings were let down. And it said a voice came from above the firmament over their heads, and they stood and they let down their wings. And it said, above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, which is inside of this craft. Was the likeness of a throne as the appearance of sapphire stone. And upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness of the appearance of a man above it. And inside of this throne room there was fire, there was amber. You can go on and read Ezekiel chapter 1. But he was seeing something land on the earth. Something with windows, something with eyes looking out of the windows, something that was controlled by the very spirit of the one that drove this particular craft. And I know it sounds science fiction, it sounds strange, and I always tell people when I'm doing talks like this, to all the Bible thumpers out there, get in your Bible and read it. Prove me wrong. If I'm wrong, show me that I'm wrong. But if I'm right, let's sit down and talk about it. I don't want to be right. I just want to be heard. Right? I want to research. I want to know. I want to come to know what it is. And that's not just the only account. What about Elijah's fiery chariot? That's how Elisha described it. He was taken up in this fiery chariot. And I've heard people say, well, heaven don't need technology. Well, you do. Somebody said, well, no, well, then don't deactivate your Facebook account or get rid of your YouTube account, right? I mean, get rid of all the technology that you've come to love. There's just so many things out there that are unexplainable that we could sit here and we could speculate and talk about. But you can't disprove what's written in the scripture. I mean, Ezekiel saw something. We weren't there to see it, but he described it very plainly, what he saw. Something landed in front of him, and it was enormous. It was huge. And he said, in this particular vehicle was the throne of God. Now, one thing that makes me feel a little worried about that is, could God come and visit us again that way? Sure, he could. But could man be in the process of being set up for some kind of a great deception? Could these be malevolent? Could these be mean beings? I don't necessarily say yes, because we've all heard the horror stories. We've all heard Travis Walton's story talking about the fire in the sky. You've seen the movie. Remember the movie came out in the 90s?
Yeah.
He was the logger and he was abducted and he felt, in danger in his life. But it really didn't turn out to be anything dangerous. Now we've heard horror stories about people being mutilated, objects placed in their bodies, being afraid, losing days, losing hours. We had Lala Bright on with us last night, and she was talking about some different phenomena that she'd experienced with bruisings and things on her body, and different things that they'd experienced, and losing track of time. Anything that's going to take me into the air and cause me to lose track of time and do experimentation on my body, I don't see them as being benevolent.
Right.
There's something they're after. What about these cattle mutilations? Um, we've read thousands of stories of encounters of cattle mutilations.
Yeah, and they take the innards.
Yeah, they take
They were the innards, and I get it. Um, there's, like you said, there's crazy things out there that circulates. Of course, this one guy, he was talking about, well, is that what aliens eat? Is innards and things like that? And of course, he was referencing a whole bunch of other type people and stuff like that. And uh, I don't think that well, anything that I've seen so far, I don't think they're here to hurt us.
I don't either.
Um, and like you said earlier in the show, that they're here to just kind of watch us, and maybe they are learning. Maybe they're learning so they can teach us, that type of thing. Um, in order to get your point across, sometimes you have to get with the people. You
That's
know,
right.
and
Yeah.
so maybe that's exactly what they're doing. Getting with the people,
Mm-hmm.
and but it's just so fascinating to me, and sometimes, like here at the house, late at night, I sleep maybe 2 hours at the time, and then I wake up for a while, and it's gotten worse since I've retired. Um, but I guess that firefighter in me, because that's the way I was when I was a firefighter. I'd sleep a couple hours and then wake up. But I could literally hear planes and things like that. I could hear these airplanes, with the small engines and things that's way up there. I could hear them flying over the house. And the old place we lived in, which what was 30 miles from here, it was kind of the same way, um, but it was a little less of a military crossing, if you will, but it was um, more of the big jets and things like that went across. But every now and then you would hear one that just kind of sounded like it streaks, and I thought maybe it was a meteor or something. I jumped up out of the bed and outside, and of course there's no light or anything. You're mind running outside in your shorts and skivvies or something. Um, but I mean, there's really was nobody around. Like here, we have a neighbor that's 200 yards away, but um, and you could hear this, and it would, like, the crafts or whatever we seen here. It was doing the same thing, but it was making a whistling noise, and as if it was in the atmosphere or something. And so that's the type of thing that it makes me wonder, okay, there's something there. If it's somebody, my hat's off to them because they're bad. They're able to withstand this type of thing. And so, um but talk about God, and he made us. He made everything, all the organisms and stuff like that. They've already proven there's organisms on Mars and things like that. So why couldn't there be other beings on other planets? He made them for some reason. I mean, it's not just. I'm pretty sure it's not just to set in the sky and be pretty.
And give us
You
something
know,
to talk about, right?
yeah,
Right.
I'm going to create that so they'll make a podcast and talk about it. It was all part of his master plan. But anyway, so there's a reason for everything, and my dad, he he was a Marine, and he was a pastor there for a while, and sometimes it's a little hard to forget the Marine Corps, and but he
Always a Marine, right?
once a Marine, always a Marine. You're absolutely right. That's something that was bestowed with me, and yeah, Dad was. I miss him. He's been gone now 4 years, 4.5 years, and he even to right the week before he went into the hospital, he was teaching. He was teaching his grandchildren. And as old as I am, he was teaching me. And that old gunnery mentality that he had. It I still hear it every day, and I try to play something that he told me in play every day. And but these things that we're experiencing, and that the government now all of a sudden says, "Hey, oh, by the way, we got this tucked away in the drawer. Y'all might want to
Yeah.
see this. Y'all read this or watch this video." And 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 I know we're a little bit short on time, but there's one thing I wanted to say. I I know somebody that their family member was at Roswell,
Oh wow.
and he walked in on um, the when they brought the bodies in, and things like that. He walked in on those and seen them laying on tables, and so on and so forth. And of course, they hurried him out. The personnel that was in there hurried him out, and pretty much told him, "You won't say a word." And every single day that he was in the military, somebody was reminding him of what could be done to him if he said anything.
Yeah.
And so years went by, and it kind of drove him crazy, or at least they made him think that he was crazy.
Hmm.
And it was on medication and so on and so forth. But um, he finally there, right towards the end, got to tell some of his story to people, and those um, those those people were ones that actually believed him, and he actually produced evidence, if you will, of the things that he seen, that he had collected. And he said they tried to make me think that I was crazy, but I know I wasn't crazy. I know what I seen. I know what I touched, and it's real.
Absolutely. Well,
And
there's
so,
a video of remember back in the '80s. I'm sorry to cough in you guys' ears.
no, no,
Funeral homes used to run ambulance service. Remember back years
yeah,
ago? And there's a guy that was a funeral home employee, worked for his dad, and he actually was called to the crash at Roswell.
oh wow,
He's done an interview. I have to find that interview and send to you, and then you can share it with Michael. He's
yeah,
on there talking, very interesting. And he was like whisked away and told, "You didn't see nothing." You know,
right,
Archbishop Enright and I've talked about this a lot. What if that's us from the future, what we're seeing? Um,
yeah,
when we do our show about the Vatican, I mean, they've been doing time traveling for years. Time
that's
traveling back, that's all something that's old technology. I mean,
yeah,
it's like it's old technology. Um, and they've tried to hide all these things from us. But people, they used to not want us to be on TV. I mean, you could get on public access and talk about this, and then pioneers like Art Bell came along and started, breaking the silence out in the darkness and started getting people thinking about talking about what they were seeing and not being afraid to do that. And now men's created the ability for us to be on here and have a platform to talk about these things and not be afraid to, and it not cost thousands and millions of dollars to do it.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Maybe next week we need to talk about the Vatican if you're free.
yeah, we can do that. And that'll be another one of those programs that'll take us forever to get
Yeah.
through.
Yep. Yeah. See, we've done several shows that we're going to have to double back to and put some more shows on about that and stuff. So that's just would just do that because you know those things like the Vatican and even UFOs and so on and so forth, those never end.
No, they
There's
don't.
always something. And one show I'd like to have you and Bishop Enright and maybe um, maybe one of the other uh, guys from the ones that you guys do, on the other show,
Mhm.
to come on and let's have a show on some of the unspeakable things that people don't want to talk about.
Uh,
Absolutely, I'm all for it, 100%.
there's a lot
I,
of things I didn't know about.
oh yeah, yeah. I learned. I,
A
you know,
lot.
I watch Explaining the Unexplainable. I'm back here, on a lot of my other shows. I'm working on something else, or um, or Teresa and I having a conversation about the Paracon or something like that. But when you guys are on your show, I'm like watching, and sometimes I miss things because I'm so engrossed in what you guys are saying, and I just learned so much by watching your show, and so that's something that I just kind of like. It just fuels my fire about doing these podcasts, and I have so many I want to do, and I can't do them all at one time. It's kind of like a kid, wanting which can't, I want them all. So and I'm and as soon as I get off the show, like I got Charles's show next. But as soon as I get off that show, I'll be over there, and Teresa will be reading or something, and I'll be like, "All right, we talked about this on the show, and we're gonna do this and this and this and this," and uh, and she'll just kind of look at me and say, "Go to sleep."
So Charlie starts tonight.
He does, yeah. Here at 8:30.
Yeah, Charlie and I are personal friends. He lives just a few miles from me,
Oh, that's cool.
so we're personal friends, and he's great. I mean, his voice is a radio voice.
Absolutely, absolutely. He calls me, and in fact, I don't think that we've had a conversation in less than 45 minutes. And I love it. I mean, I love talking to him. He is so a delightful person to talk to, and he has so much information and stuff. In fact, he just messaged me. He says, "Send me that link whenever you're ready for us," and stuff like that. And so, but I just I found a new thing, that type of thing. And and Charles, he's a good guy, and I
He
just enjoy talking with him. He's a mechanic, and we talk about fixing cars sometimes and things like that. And I used to be, and I told him the reason that I quit B. I was SCA certified and all this stuff, and the reason uh, the reason I quit is because I don't like getting my hands greasy.
Me neither.
I don't
And
either.
I can't stand it. But then I turned around and I was a butcher for 32 years, and I got my hands bloody all the time, or in a nasty mess, and but I couldn't stand getting grease on them, and it was just amazing. And
I'm the
um,
same way.
Yeah,
yeah,
me too.
yeah, thank goodness that um, I bought some of those black iron gloves or whatever it is that mechanics wear,
Yeah.
and every now and then I have to put spark plugs and stuff in the vehicles, or change the oil, and I'll wear two or three pair of those. You
I
know,
can I can put gas in. That's about all I can. I can change brakes and just a few minor things, but I'd rather pay somebody to do it, right, honey?
but
Well,
I have grew up with my uncles. Helped them work in the pits at Charlotte before it was an international raceway.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
and I can build a motor. I can build a race car motor, and I know how to do all the grindings and the oversized, undersized, everything. I know how to install all the bubble gum pumps and stuff like that. And I don't think they call it bubble gums anymore. Nitrous oxide. It smells like bubble gum,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's what we. Um, Lala Bright
Hey,
is in
Lola.
the chat. Hey, Lala.
I had to get my eyes to focus so I could see it.
Yeah, she says I'm gonna clean and listen to you guys. um, but so you know, when you learn how to do all that stuff, and you have one drawback, you don't like to get greasy, you know, and your family has put all that stuff in your head, and I went to school for it, and I feel like I've, you know, and then I cut meat.
Yeah, just a little bit of outer space humor. What do aliens eat for breakfast?
Hmm. Don't know.
Nothing. They prefer to wait for lunch.
All right. And
And
that,
hey, here's another good one. How do they eat ice cream in space? In
oh,
floats.
It flows.
that's actually funny. Yeah.
Your favorite dessert? Galaxy pie. I know it's. I'm not much of a comedian. That's why I had to get an honest job. They kept booing me off stage.
uh, um, while we're talking, I'm gonna set their show up and send them the link, and that was funny. I'm gonna have to tell Teresa that one. I know she's probably dozed off, but in the morning I'll tell her. And but yeah, we're definitely gonna have to have another show
Definitely, yeah.
about the aliens, and but next week I definitely want to do the Vatican. I've been, we were going to do it a while back and couldn't, and it it's just something that's been weighing in the back of my mind. I've read a whole bunch of stuff about this. I don't know what's fact or fiction, and
Right.
I figured I'll ask somebody that knows. So,
There's a lot of things that are fact, but it's played off as fiction, and there's a lot of things that are fiction that's played off as fact.
Right.
Being part of the Catholic Church, um, our church is different in that much different than Rome. We do have a pope. His name is Pope Michael II. We believe he is the successor to the seat of Peter. And I'll have to send you some information about that, Stan,
yes, do
so
please
that you
do.
can read up on that as well. Wonderful man. Um, but there are a lot of things about Rome and that walled city called the Vatican. A lot of mysteries that have been talked about for, well, as long as the Vatican's been there. So I look forward to talking with you about it next week.
Yes,
Have you
sir.
have you visited the Vatican?
I have not.
Ah,
They probably wouldn't let me in there anyways because I'd be down in the basement of the basement of the basement, sneaking around trying to find things.
He's like,
I'd
wait a minute.
probably get arrested, and you know,
I've seen pictures and videos, and it's like, how could they have the technology and stuff to do that stuff back then?
oh, it's
It's
beautiful, isn't it?
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
You wouldn't
You
think
know,
it was built back in so far back. It
And they
just
can't
looked like,
replicate it today.
yeah, it just looked like something that somebody would put up today.
It's beautiful, beautiful city, and the body of Saint Peter and Saint Paul are both there. Excuse me.
I
Both of their
didn't know
remains are there.
I didn't know that Michelangelo. I mean, not Michelangelo. What was that?
Leonardo da Vinci.
Leonardo da Vinci
Sistine
had
Chapel.
something to do with it. Yeah, helped build it.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to go there just to go to St. Peter's Square, the St. Peter's Basilica, to be able to go in there, and that's open to the public. You're allowed to go in there and look and be part of the services and stuff. But after that show next week, they may not let me even in Italy.
Uh, I've been close. I flew over it, and but I think let's just say there's a whole bunch of mystery, and I have a whole bunch of questions. And I used to work security for a fella, and he was very devout Catholic. Um, I have gone to mass, but I didn't go to mass. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Um, I was there as strictly as a bodyguard, and it, um, it's an interesting thing, and that whole Italy and all those places like that over there. Just there's a lot of nice people. Don't get me
Oh
wrong,
yeah, yeah, wonderful
um,
people.
but
Yeah,
if you're not from there, yeah, they can tell you're not from there, and you don't even have to open your mouth, you know.
it's true.
And
Just like we're transplants. Me and my youngest son have always. It's our dream to be able to go back to our homeland of Scotland one
Scotland,
day.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
me. I'm Scottish.
yeah.
I'll have to get my wife to come on. Um, we'll have a kind of a meeting on StreamYard and let her tell you the story about what she found out about my ancestors in Scotland.
Awesome.
It's pretty interesting.
Well, we might be related to. I mean, we used to be called the Spracks. Sprack
Right.
was our last name, and then they changed it to Sparks. But I'm related to the to King Borgham, who was the king of Fife, Scotland. He was a grandfather of mine back
Wow.
many years ago. You know,
Well,
probably not too far after William Wallace and Robert the Bruce had been sensationalized over there.
that's pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
Now, my great, however many greats it was, grandfather was a privateer,
Wow.
and he was Duncan King was his name, and he was the younger son of a king, and so he just kind of left because he didn't like what was going on, basically. Well, that's just unofficial, but um, she could tell you definitely more. But he went and fought with General Wolfe, and
Wow.
he kind of spread his stuff around, and himself, and but it's how he got his wife is what's kind of really interesting, and her last name was Fosque, and so yeah, I'll have to get her to.
Yeah.
She's been working on a book, and she told me, she says, one day I'm going to write a book about all the stuff that I've learned about you and all the adventures that you've been on and things like that. And I'm like, okay, so she started it, and she's told me things that I just totally forgot, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I remember that now. Now that you mentioned it, and some of the crazy things that I've done, and especially when I was firefighting. It's not just every day you can fall 46 feet and come back from it all. But
That's true.
yeah, uh, 9.5 months in a wheelchair and 13 months learning how to walk again.
Mm.
And so,
Bless you.
when you fall 4 stories,
That's a long
that's
way.
a
Yeah.
long way. And I landed back in North Carolina. Their basements are not like you can assess them from the outside. It's all in the inside. And I landed directly on the concrete on my knees, and
Mm.
goodness.
totally destroyed my knees and stuff. And it's kind of a story. I'll have to sometime or another when we have a little more time tell you about it. But it's it's a life-changing event.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you that. And the angels was with me, and God was with me, and one particular angel, and that's the reason I'm here today. But
I'm glad you are.
yeah, me too. All right, well, gentlemen, I got another show after this, and in fact, I was just talking to Charles, and but I've enjoyed this. This is awesome, and next week we're gonna come back and dive deep into the Vatican.
Let's
Sound
do
like
it.
a plan.
All right, cause
I'll bring the coffee.
yeah, that's right. I got a Keurig right here.
I do. That's what I've got. Nobody else drinks it but me here at my house, so that's all I've got secured too. So,
Well, my wife drinks it, but not this late. And sometimes when I'm producing shows, I'll fire up the old Keurig. I got a box of coffee behind me and stuff. So, but
That's why he's
anyway,
awake all night.
yeah. Well, no, coffee's never done that to me. You run through a bag and it's 3 days old and cold and got mold on top of it, and you rake that across and out the door you go. If that won't keep you awake, nothing will. So
put some pep in your step, right?
that's correct. But anyway, it's one of those things. I love coffee.
I do too.
But all right, gentlemen, it has been great being with you guys, and I just appreciate both of you being here with me, and I
Good to meet you.
appreciate. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you got to meet him. I told you he was a good guy.
Thank
And
you. I appreciate that.
But
Good to meet you, Michael.
it's
Privilege.
one of these days, I'm gonna have him at our Paracon.
That'll work.
Yeah, I'll definitely come. That'd be wonderful.
Absolutely,
I need to come down to Alabama anyways.
that's right. Come a few days prior. We'll go fishing or something.
All
Oh,
right.
now you're talking. Now you're talking.
But all right, well, gentlemen, I appreciate it, and I thanks everybody that was in the chat, Lala. And one night I'm gonna get Lala to come on the show. I'm gonna reach out to her, and because she is a special lady. I was listening to you guys last night, and she definitely needs to come on, and I got some questions for her. So, but Ben, thank you for hanging with us. Well, gentlemen, I'm gonna jump off here and get this other show started. Y'all have a wonderful night. God bless you. And if y'all need me, I'm right here, one call away. Both of you's got my phone number.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
So, all right. Y'all take it easy. Everybody out there, thank you for watching Smoke. And y'all come back next week because we're going to get deep down into the basements of the Vatican. And,
Same time, same channel.
That's right. Like that same bat channel, same bat time. So, all right. Well, y'all have a great night, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah! Thanks for